The last thing my brother said to me before he disappeared was that he could hear something singing at the bottom of the well. Not music exactly, more like the sound a voice makes when it's trying to remember how to be a voice. He said it had been singing his name for 3 nights. I told him to go to sleep. That was the summer I was 14, he was 9, and the drought had cracked the earth around Miller's Crossing so deeply you could lose a finger in the gaps. Miller's Crossing wasn't a town so much as a decision someone made about a road. 12 houses, a grain elevator that hadn't turned since 1987, and a population that measured itself in who had left versus who had stayed. We were the family that stayed, mostly because my mother said the land remembered us. I never knew what she meant by that until much later. What I did know was that every kid in a 20-mile radius had heard the story of the well, that if you looked into it during a drought, something down there looked back, that if you called into it, something answered €1, but not right away, sometimes not for years. The well sat on the edge of the Pruitt family property, which had been abandoned since before I was born. Nobody owned it officially anymore. €1. The county had some claim on paper, but no one ever came to collect. It was built from gray limestone stacked without mortar, wide enough at the mouth that a child could fall in without catching themselves on the sides. My mother had told us never to go near it. She said it with the specific flatness in her voice she reserved for things she would not explain further. That tone that meant the conversation was not a conversation. The legend, as best as I understood it from older kids and overheard adult conversations, went like this. During the drought of 1936, a well digger named Harlan Pruitt went down into the well to clear a blockage and never came up. His family lowered the bucket 9 times. The first 8 times, it came back empty. The 9th time, it came back full of water, clean, cold water, during one of the worst dry spells in county history. After that, the well never ran dry. But Harlan was never found. And every drought since then, something in the well asked for a replacement. I thought it was a story parents told to keep children away from open shafts of earth. I was mostly right. The drought that summer was the worst in 60 years. I remember this because the local news said so every night, and my mother turned off the television every night when they said it. She started buying water in gallon jugs from the hardware store in Reedsville, 40 minutes away, even though our tap still ran. I thought that was odd. I filed it away as one of her eccentricities and forgot about it, the way you do when you are 14 and certain that your parents are simply strange people who don't concern you. I would spend a long time regretting that dismissal. My brother's name was Cody. He was the kind of 9-year-old who collected things €1, arrowheads, bottle caps, interesting rocks. He had a coffee can under his bed with 47 items in it that he had cataloged in a marble composition notebook with a level of seriousness I have never matched in my adult life. The week before he disappeared, he added 1 item to the can without cataloging it. I only discovered this later. It was a small piece of pale gray limestone, smooth on one side, rough on the other. The kind of stone the well was built from. He disappeared on a Tuesday. I know because Tuesday was the day my mother drove to Reedsville and I was supposed to watch him. I was reading in my room. I heard the screen door open and close. I heard his footsteps cross the porch and crunch into the gravel. I assumed he was doing what he always did, wandering the field edge, looking for things to add to his can. I went back to my book. I did not hear the screen door open again. When my mother came home at 5 o'clock with 8 gallons of water, Cody was gone. The search lasted 11 days. Sheriff's deputies, volunteers, a dog team from the state. They covered the fields, the drainage ditches, the tree lines. They searched the Pruitt property. They looked into the well with a flashlight and a camera on a pole. The camera came back with footage of stone walls and darkness, and, at 62 feet down, a surface of black water. No Cody. The official conclusion was that a child had wandered during a heat event and succumbed to exposure somewhere the search hadn't reached. My mother did not argue with this. She thanked the sheriff. She went inside. She did not cry in front of me once. I moved away at 18. College, then a job in Louisville, then further. I did not go back to Miller's Crossing for 11 years. My mother sold the house after her second stroke and moved to a facility in Bowling Green. When I drove back to clear the last of her things, I stopped at the house, walked the property, and found myself standing at the edge of the Pruitt land without fully deciding to go there. The well was still there. The rope was new. Someone had replaced it recently. The hemp was bright, barely weathered, tied to the crossbar with a knot I didn't recognize. I should have left. I know that. But I thought about Cody and his composition notebook and the piece of limestone he never cataloged, and I leaned over the rim and looked down. The shaft smelled of cold mineral water and something else, something faintly sweet in the way that earth is sweet after rain, except there had been no rain. It was dark below the first 10 feet. I could see nothing, but I could hear something. Not singing. More like the echo of a voice that had already stopped. A resonance. The specific acoustic quality of a sound that had been made recently in an enclosed space. Someone had just spoken down there. I drove to the facility in Bowling Green that same evening. My mother was sitting up in bed watching a game show with the volume low. When I came in, she looked at me the way she sometimes did, not quite at my face, slightly to the left of it, the way she had looked at things since the strokes. I told her I had been to the well. Her eyes moved fully to my face for the first time in 2 years. She said quietly, "Did you touch the rope?" I told her no. She exhaled slowly and turned back to the television. I asked her what would have happened if I had. She said, "It only needs one from a family. It already has one from ours." She died 4 days later. Peacefully, the nurse said. In her belongings, I found a shoebox she had labeled with my name and masking tape. Inside was a bundle of letters, a photograph, and a small brass key I didn't recognize. The letters were written in her handwriting across a span of years, some dated, some not. The earliest was from the summer Cody disappeared. It began, "I knew it would be him and not you. The well showed me in the water and I tried to stop it by keeping you both inside. But Cody had already taken the stone, and once you've taken from it, the dead is open." I read that sentence 4 times before I understood that my mother had seen this coming. That the water jugs weren't eccentricity. They were an attempt. The photograph was of the well, taken in daylight, sometime in what looked like the 1970s based on the color processing. My mother was in it, young, maybe 20, standing at the rim with her hand on the rope. She was not alone. Beside her stood a man I had never seen, thin, in work clothes, with the particular stillness of someone who has been in the same position for a very long time. He was not looking at the camera. He was looking at her. On the back of the photograph, in my mother's handwriting, were 2 words. He asked. I turned the photograph over and looked at the man's face again. His eyes were open, but they caught no light. Not the flatness of a bad exposure. Something else. I went back to the well the following morning with a flashlight. I don't know what I expected to find. Closure, maybe. Evidence that Cody had simply fallen and that the rest was story. I shone the light straight down. The water was there at 62 feet, black and still. And then the still surface moved. Not from wind, there was no wind. It moved from below, the way water moves when something beneath it shifts position. 2 pale shapes rose slowly toward the surface and resolved into hands. A child's hands, resting palms up just below the water, the way a person floats when they have stopped fighting. They were there for 3 seconds. Then they sank again, and the water went still, and I heard, clearly, at 62 feet below the surface of the earth, a child's voice say my name. I drove home to Louisville in 4 hours without stopping. I told myself it was reflection, bad light, the power of expectation. I told myself that for 3 weeks. Then I noticed that every time I filled a glass from the tap, there was a faint smell, cold mineral water, and something faintly sweet. And last Thursday, I found something on my kitchen counter that I have not been able to explain. Sitting beside the sink, still damp, was a small piece of pale gray limestone. Smooth on one side, rough on the other. The 48th item in a catalog that was never finished.